All right, we're live. Good evening, everyone. My name is Scott Rogers, Chair of the Appropriations Committee. I'd like to call the Appropriations Committee meeting for Tuesday, February 10th to order at 6:06 p.m. This meeting is being conducted as a hybrid meeting in accordance with the provisions of the open meeting law. It's being streamed live and recorded. Because we have remote participants, all votes taken this evening will be by roll call. Before we begin, I'll state the members of the Appropriations Committee who are present in the room and those that are participating remotely. For remote participants, I'll confirm that you can hear and be heard. We'll go around the room. Mona Wallace.
Here.
George Brinkle.
Here.
Tim Kalin.
Here.
And Jeff Knight.
Here.
Thank you, everybody. We open things up for any public comment. If you're here in the room, raise your hand. If you're in the Zoom, use the reactions feature on the meeting toolbar to raise your hand from the menu, and then to lower your hand, you can click those reactions again. To do that, we'll limit folks to 3 minutes or so per person. And I'd like to recognize first Danielle Williams.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're coming through, Danielle.
Great. Thank you for the time tonight. I know you've got a full agenda on your plate, probably as usual. And I see Scott there, which is great. I know you guys will be covering some of the DPW expenditures and perhaps capital items that are on the docket. One of them is a very large investment for the Assabet Hill neighborhood. I'm a resident here. I live in the development. We really need your support pushing through this request for investment. I've spoken with the Finance Committee as well, and we'll also be meeting with the Select Board. I've been advocating for this project for at least the past 7 years. With Scott, he has a wealth of information as to how poor the conditions are of this neighborhood, and we're talking about the streets, the sidewalks, even people's property, their driveways. We have an abundance of bumps, sinkholes. It is really dangerous driving, even just driving through our neighborhood. If you haven't been, I highly encourage you to. It's an experience. We've had reports of people being injured. I did send an email to, and I see Jason there, and I don't know if it got to all of you, with some documentation, some pictures. With the snow, unfortunately, at this point, you can't really see the sides of the roads. You can certainly experience the heaves and bumps driving up it and areas that are sinking. We understand that this is a large investment for the town, as this is not just a reconstruction of the road, but this is rather addressing the failing draining infrastructure underneath as well. So we acknowledge it, but I really hope that this committee that looks and advises the committee and the town on the right direction, that they really prioritize this project as a safety concern. And when you look at all the projects, where this should fall. My understanding that there was an independent survey back done in 2023 looking at the conditions of the roads throughout town, and we were right at the top there. We know about the drainage infrastructure as well, and how there are significant repairs to be done with that. There was a report done in 2019. We're talking a significant amount of time has passed since then. But I really advocate for your support, because at the end of the day, it becomes a safety issue here in this neighborhood. And I guess the last thing I want to reiterate is, if we don't prioritize this as a town now, the costs are going to continue to go up, and the conditions will continue to get worse. And I guess from my perspective personally, and I know there's maybe some others here as well, but speaking on behalf of the whole neighborhood, we really fear for what worse is going to look like. And I really hope that we don't ever find ourselves in an emergency situation. And I don't mean to make this more dramatic than it is, but living here as long as I've had and seen the change in the road, in the driveways, in the sidewalks, it is very scary to live here. So I urge for your support in advocating for this project to move this forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. And my apologies, as part of the introductions, I did not mention that our town administrator, Stephanie Bacon, and our finance director, Jason Little, are also here in the meeting.
Thank you.
Right.
And through the chair, I just want to mention, I did place in the packet tonight, and if any citizen at home watching the meeting wants to access it, there's a collection of, a compiled collection of the document that Danielle mentioned, and it's in your packet. It's listed Aspet Hill Project citizen comments through February 5th within the packet, if anybody accesses it from the Appropriations Committee page on the town site.
Yeah, and that's a great reminder to anybody who watches the recording afterwards, is that on each of the committee pages, usually you'll see the agenda document linked and the packet folder linked, so you can find the materials that we're reviewing as part of the meeting in those as well. Thanks, Jason. Let me recognize Lauren next.
Hi, are you able to hear me? It's telling me I can't unmute.
Nope, you're in great shape. Just
Okay,
for the
wonderful.
purpose of the recording in the minutes, just state your name and address.
Perfect. Yeah, Lauren Fortier. I live at 22 Assabet Hill Circle. Just wanted to echo a lot of what Danielle was saying and encourage attention and focus and commitment from the town to help with our neighborhood as the roads are continuing to fall apart. Every spring, we spend a lot of time shoveling pieces of asphalt out of our lawn because the road just disintegrates throughout the winter. The wear and tear on not just our vehicles, but the DPW vehicles, the plows that come through. We've had many plows actually break down in front of our house while trying to plow because the road conditions are so poor that it damages their trucks. Thankfully, we have lots of children running around our neighborhood, but I do worry about the condition of them being on any wheeled vehicle like a scooter, a bike, because the roads are not safe for those kinds of wheeled accessories. There are just divots everywhere. So I won't be much longer. Just want to ask that the attention be focused on this as I know you guys strive to keep this town in great shape and have a good, strong infrastructure. Our neighborhood is in dire need of a real significant redo to make our sewers safe, to make our roads safe as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Lauren. Any other public comments? I think Chrissy, that was an applause or a raising hand to talk? I think that was an applause, a high five. Okay, excellent. Thank you very much for the
I was
comments.
raising my hand, but I couldn't find it. Sorry about that. I am Christy Hongs, and I am at 14 Patriot Drive, also in the Assabet Hill neighborhood. And I will just agree with everything that Danielle and Lauren said, and I am here to show my support.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You.
All right, I see no other hands raised, so thank you very much. We'll move into the approval of meeting minutes. We have two sets, and just to note that there's a couple corrections to be made on the meeting minutes of the 22nd. We reversed Elaine's first and last name on the first page. And then, Jason, we also noticed on page 4, at the top paragraph on that page, the two sentences are repeated. So it's just a repeat of two sentences to be struck. It was just
need to be deleted.
just delete there. So with that as amended, is there a motion for the January 26th meeting minutes?
I move we accept the meetings January 22nd as amended.
Thank you, George. Is there a second? Second. Mona seconded. This has to be a roll call vote. Mona? To approve the meeting minutes? You can.
Aye.
Aye. George?
Aye.
Tim? Tim Kalen, can you hear me? You're still on mute. And Jeff is indicating that he's not getting audio. Jeff, can you hear us?
Now I can. We weren't permitted to unmute, Tim and I.
There we go. We got you. We got you. Okay. Tim, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Jeff, how do you vote?
So I will note that I was not at the meeting, but I watched the meeting and I'll vote aye.
And I am also an aye. The meeting minutes for January 2nd are approved. And we have meeting minutes for February 3rd. Is there a motion?
I move we approve the meeting minutes of February 3rd.
Thank you, George. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mona. Rock, paper, scissors is a valid method to determine who's going to make the motion. This is also be a roll call vote. Mona? George? Tim?
I wasn't at the meeting, so I'll abstain.
Thank you, sir. And Jeff?
Aye.
Okay, one abstention, and the meeting minutes are approved. All right, the main course this evening, the Department of Public Works and Enterprise Fund budget requests with our Director of Public Works, Scott Charpentier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. How would you like to proceed? Capital first, operating, enterprise? We do have the capital folks on.
That's what I was going to say.
Comments,
Given
so-
that we kind of talked about one of the capital items, if you don't mind starting with that, we'll just continue kind of with that continuity.
Certainly.
Yes, so Scott, for the packet tonight, I prepared the entire packet is what was presented to the Financial Planning Committee when you did your capital presentation there from December. We did make one change to the structure of it where we showed the Aspet Hill project being broken into two phases to fit within the means in the capital plan. So I would just navigate that was one nuance to it.
Okay.
We also, in the regular packet is the updated capital plan that we'll get to at the next agenda item. But thanks.
Yeah, so I would say for the committee members, this packet that starts with the pie chart, the printout there is updated to kind of reflect a two-year split on the Aspet Hill. So that one's a good one to look at there.
So I'll just go through the requests in order of the packet. The first one is for a facilities van. It's $100,000. That quote is, that request is based on physical quotes from two vendors. One vendor provides the chassis, another vendor outfits the van. This would be it'd be a 350, a one-ton van, so it'll be robust enough to pull the trailer with a piece of equipment if necessary. It's not a transit van, it's a 350, a one-ton van. Currently, the facilities division, we created the facilities division 4 years ago. We're building it up. We have a facilities manager who's been here for five years. He helped us create the division. We have a dedicated facilities staff member. He currently provides services to the town buildings out of a flatbed truck. It's a regular cab, flatbed truck. It is the winter time, so right now it has two snow blowers, a spreader, and two shovels in the back of it. It's not exactly convenient to go to somebody's home and do some renovations or repairs. How he operates now shows up at the police station. They have a concern with the door that's catching, looks at the door, determines what he needs, goes to the shop, gets some tools, goes to Rocky's, gets some parts, goes back to the door, finds out he needs a couple more tools. You get where I'm going. It's not the most efficient way to go about things. Vast majority of our peer communities that where Public Works has a facilities division, has a facilities vehicle. You'll see Westboro has a variety of sizes. They got the little ones that buzz around, and then the larger ones that are more like an electrician or plumber or carpenter's piece of equipment, a vehicle.
Let me just orient the members too. So then this thicker package that with this capital plan summary on the front has the pages for each of the capital items. And so there's a picture of the van in about, I don't know, 3 or 4 pages in. So for each of the capital items, there'll be a summary page like that. Sorry about that, Scott.
No, it's perfect. I'll use the one you have in the packet, even better. The next one you see on the capital plan has been,
Can I just ask a question on Scott, that, because I know financial planning had some questions and back and forth on whether one of the other vehicles could be repurposed, but this represents then where all that landed?
This is where we ended up with
Yeah.
it too. We kind of played with the idea of refurbishing one of the trucks that was going to be traded in as part of the repurposing plan. And the engine was blown in that vehicle, and it was a 2012 F-350 that had been used for plowing. And the $24,000 quote made it seem like that would be throwing good money after bad to embark on that plan. So we kind of coalesced back to the original plan of not converting the 2019 F-350 truck into a facilities truck, and instead move forward with, instead of saving a few $1,000s, or not a few $1,000s, I forget the exact amount, but instead of saving a little bit of money by trying to embark on a kind of a risky plan to repair a 2012 and then convert a 2019 to something less than ideal, put it back to what's shown in Scott's original request.
Great, thank you, Jason.
it was approximately $75,000 to replace the engine, repair the body, and then outfit the other vehicle to become facilities-oriented, as opposed to spending $100,000 on a brand-new vehicle. So, thank you, Jason.
And I don't know, did you mention, I'm sorry, I was looking for the duplicate kind of trying to multitask, but did you mention that the truck itself, you typically buy a vehicle, there's a base price, it's through collaborative procurements, so it's a competitive process that you're shopping around through cooperative procurements. For the base price, and then there's a cost to outfit it. Can you?
Yes, I
mention
did.
that? I don't know, did you mention that?
Yes, I did.
Sorry.
Yep. So continuing down on the vehicles, well, up on the capital, the next one you'll see is, it's no longer on the capital plan. I hope it's been removed from yours. It's under facilities. Nope. The $30,000 for highway garage bay heaters replacement. Our facilities manager, Sean Thompson, was able to find two quotes from state bid list HVAC contractors to confirm the number that we got from an engineer, and the quotes came in less than the $25,000 threshold for capital. It actually came in at $22,000, so that's off the capital plan. We'll take care of that out of the operating budget.
Okay, great.
So the next one that's actually on the capital plan is the police station generator. Generator is indoors, it's original to the building, well past its useful life. The police station houses our dispatch center as well. Obviously, that building is 24/7 and critical to our public safety needs. The recommendation is to install an appropriate generator outside, fueled by propane. It's a reliable fuel. It'll be adequately protected, automatic switchgear, and the existing generator will be removed. Again, it's indoors. It's not where you put generators anymore.
If I remember, this has been on the plan for quite a while,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it
So
is.
we've gotten as much as we could out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't comply with codes. There's power issues with it. The building has far higher power demand today than it did when it was constructed. Obviously, the dispatch center is a little more robust than it was in the late 80s. So next is a couple ones that you have seen in the past. Roadway maintenance for $326,000. This has been an ongoing capital item for several years. We started doing roadway maintenance projects close to a decade ago. We have funding from three different mechanisms. One is Chapter 90, that's approximately $500,000 a year. We have $300,000 in the operating budget proposed, and here we're proposing $326,000 for, excuse me, from the capital. This is the only one that has an annual escalation to keep up with costs. Chapter 90 has been static for a decade. The price of asphalt over the past 10 years has increased, shockingly. The governor has found surplus budget over the past few years to supplement capital, Chapter 90. $80 million was distributed to the Commonwealth communities last year. That gave us about another $100,000. This coming fiscal year, FY '27, she's proposing a 4-year, $300 million Chapter 90 budget. The current budget is $200 million, so that would be a 50% increase. That would allocate another $250,000 to Northborough. All in all, we need approximately $1.1 million to maintain our roadway conditions. I've been saying that for a decade, and we're stretching that rubber band really, really hard to provide the same improvements today that we did 10 years ago with the same funding. But we're managing, we're implementing different types of treatments. You've seen some bonded wearing course around Cedar Hill. We've been doing some rubber chip seal. We've been doing that up and around the hills. We try to touch 10% of our roads every year. So we have 80 miles of road, try to touch eight of them. Don't do all the same thing, some full construction, some crack seal. And then we got a geographic component to it too. We don't want to just spend all the money, in Northgate, which we could easily. You got to hit the hills, north, south, east, and west. So we try to be cognitive of the communities, outside of just downtown area.
And Scott, can you just mention briefly, also just the pavement measurements and
Yep.
the status and the kind of the database you maintain of what needs to be done?
So we have an engineering consultant. He's a pavement management, pavement preservation expert. We have him drive the whole town every 2 years, evaluate all the roads. He evaluates in videos everything, not counts it, but evaluates the concentration of cracking, checking, and potholes, cross-section and profile. He assigns to each roadway a grade. It's basically like a school grade. If your road's a 50, you failed, and it's in bad shape. A brand-new road we just paved, maybe 98 to 100. Our roadway condition currently is 77. We've been hovering around the mid-70s for a while. The graph you see, if you have the graphic, there's 3 lines on it. The top line is one funding approach, 1.1 million. The green one, or the middle one, is without one of the 300,000s, either capital or operating, and then the bottom one is just Chapter 90. So again, we move toward maintaining our numbers. I'd love to make them better. We have been able to keep up with some of the governor's assistance. Hopefully a 4-year bond bill will go a long way in having us improve our roadway conditions and get that grade up to an 80, 82. It'd be nice. I'd like to be a B- student.
Scott, I know one of the supplemental appropriations was funded by the Fair Share Amendment, which was the so-called millionaire's tax.
Yep.
Where half of the money is dedicated to education, and then the other half is dedicated towards infrastructure, or loosely intended to. I'm not sure the official strings on that. Do you know of anything permanent or any permanent plans? I know you mentioned the governor increasing the Chapter 90 bond bill, but
That's it. That Fair Share Act went to a variety of infrastructure programs, small bridges program, culvert replacement program, Chapter 90, rural roadways. There was some EJ assignments to it, and environmental justice communities were given some preference when it comes to funding. They're a little more in financial need than maybe some more affluent towns. But no, that's a one-time influx. We've been lucky, and we've had a few one-timers. The MMA has been promoting a stable and predictable funding for Chapter 90, which this 4 years would be nice, because every other year it's been 1 year bond. We don't know what's going to happen with it, so we're hoping it goes through with that 300. Next is drainage and sidewalk improvements. This has been on the capital plan for the past few years. You can see a picture of a culvert there. The last allocation appropriation for this from last year went to repair Two culvert failures, one on Howard Street, right between the cemetery entrances, and the other one was on Church Street, near Fay Lane. Both of those culverts are the same construction. They're banded steel. The steel settled out of the bands, the road fell into the culvert, hence roadway plates. We were able to do something a little unique to Northborough with a structural cured-in-place pipeliner. It's like a plastic resin with fiberglass in it, and you put it in there, and you inflate it, and you cure it, and it becomes a structural element. It's much more cost-effective than digging up the road and doing it the conventional way. We haven't done it in this town before. It went very well. It was quickly done. We did it in a sort of design-build fashion, going through some joint procurement mechanisms, which allowed us some extra money, about $170,000 left over, that I came before the select board to ask, where do you want it? We've never done anything with sidewalks, because every time this money comes up, a drain fails. So, knock on wood, we allocated it to sidewalk designs in town. I know that's been a hot topic in town, especially with the complete streets. And so again, this is another funding request. We just got a report from Mass DOT on the Brigham Street culvert over the Assabet. It's the two barrels you see when you go driving on Juniper Brook, Brigham Street by Juniper Brook Golf Course. They're falling apart. There's big holes in them. What happens with these are corrugated metal galvanized pipes. What happens with corrugated metal galvanizing? The water line continually flows at about the same elevation. It has sediment in it. Over the decades, the sediment wears away the galvanization. Then the steel rusts, and then the culvert falls in on itself. So those two barrels would be very well suited to this treatment that we did this year. Push the river on one side, do one barrel, push it on the other side, do the other barrel, and hopefully that gives us enough funds to move something else to a sidewalk. Hope so. All right, so this is a vehicle purchase. It's going to replace the 2012. We were talking about replacing the engine, which is not fiscally responsible, I don't believe. Right now, this vehicle serves our cemeteries. One of the challenges with this vehicle is it is not heavy enough to pull the mini excavator that excavates at the cemetery. So in order to go to the cemetery, you have to bring another truck there, pull the excavator, drop it off, come back, get your cemetery truck that has all the cemetery equipment in it, and then go. It's inefficient. With the loss of the 2012, we lose a lift gate. That's why the snow blowers are on it. It's got a big lift gate on the back. You put it down, you can get the snow blowers up and down. So trading that in, we won't have a lift gate. This one can be converted to a lift gate. The new vehicle we purchase will have a larger engine, and it'll have dual wheels in the rear. So it'll have adequate towing capacity and load capacity to move the excavator. So this would be repurposed. What we typically do with vehicles is you trade in the old one that's really needs to go. You take one of the newer ones, you repurpose it to do what the old one did. Then you get a new one to put it in kind of the frontline services. That way you're not taking a brand new truck and putting it in a somewhat of abusive environment, like the hot box. You just don't want to do that. Oh, here we go.
This, again, this is to do with the fact that right now you've got a truck that has a blown engine, so you're running one truck short.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. This recent storm also knocked out two of our large plow trucks. It's just so cold. Springs break, hydraulic fittings break. Rear ends don't enjoy the abuse of salt in the back, and they're older, but they're at the shop right now, and it's a challenge. Luckily, 3 inches I think we can handle. 2 feet and 0 degrees is a little different.
Yeah.
So this is the project, the Assabet Hill Drainage and Roadways project that the residents were calling about. I've met with the residents in the neighborhood several times, and what they stated, both stated is correct. We did a a video inspection of all the pipes, sewer, as well as drainage and all the manhole and catch basins. This was done in 2019. It was done in response to some large potholes that appeared in the neighborhood. I don't know if anybody read the Community Advocate article. I was wonderfully quoted as saying they were sinkholes the size of Volkswagens. And I wasn't exaggerating or being facetious. 2 of them were big enough to put a VW bug in. And they show up unexpectedly. You know, the pavement is pretty flexible and pretty strong, can hold up until it doesn't. So we had those repaired, we did the video inspections, it found what pipes were in poor condition and where the failures are, and what structures are in poor shape. That was in 2019. There's no reason, it would not be fiscally responsible to pave the roads if the underlying drainage is falling apart, because the same thing's gonna happen. Another issue with that neighborhood is perch groundwater and high groundwater. When that's not properly taken care of along sidewalks and curb lines, the subsurface soil becomes saturated, even super saturated, which changes it from wet mud to like pudding. And we actually had a sidewalk machine tip over because the sidewalk failed. I believe that was one of the photographs that was included in the email. So the process, we go in, repair the drainage. Once the drainage is repaired, temporary patches, let things settle for a season, come back in, reclaim all the asphalt, remove the sidewalks, remove the slope granite edging, put in new asphalt, new Bitconk asphalt curbing, and new asphalt sidewalk. So the way it's proposed now is a 2-year cycle. I believe it's $500,000 proposed for FY '27's capital. And then what would likely be a borrowing article of 1.3 next year to cover the net 1.8 million.
Okay, the plan says 1.8 million in '27.
Correct, yeah, that was the nature of my comments at the start of the meeting, that
Okay.
we have, within this document here, this has been updated. This is just the summary, but I
Okay.
wanted to include Scott's presentation from the capital planning committee, or the financial planning committee,
Okay.
where he had all of the project details within that packet. So I was trying to navigate that change in numbers between, there's a couple changes from that packet to this summary.
All right.
So within this
So
summary, this has the
what we're
most
looking at
updated
this
numbers.
year is
500,000, yeah, from free cash.
and potentially approval to borrow the
1.3-ish.
1.3 next year, in '28.
Right, it's in the next years, it's in the capital plan for next year, so it would be part of what we're considering in the financial plan for the debt policy for
Okay.
the future. So
All right.
it's not necessarily debt if there's enough free cash to be able to fund it. Next year, there's a number of expensive items in the plan next year, so it'd likely be modeled as debt in our debt models.
Okay.
Scott, how would that be, the phasing? Is there a way to characterize what would be done this, the first year and what the residents might see and any potential benefits in that first phase, like immediate improvements?
There likely won't be much seen from the residents in year one. I'll have to look at the detailed cost estimate. Well, first off, you start at the bottom of the hill, you work your way up for drainage, never start at the top. It washes out the bottom first,
Yeah.
don't want that. So we either start at the bottom and start chipping away at pipes, or we go in there, we do all the structures. Catch basins, manholes, shoot them all with shotcrete, seal them all up, seal the pipe entrances, reset the corbels, the frames and covers and grates. So everything is good, and then the next year, the contractor comes in and does all the pipes. I just need to look at where the dollars would be most wisely spent. It's gonna be one of those two.
Okay.
Either we start at the bottom, work our way up, or we just go everywhere and get all the structures done. That'll hopefully reduce some of the slamming and massive noises they hear when the plows go over the manhole covers and launch them into the air.
So that's a kind of a architecture, project design decision that you'll make closer to this if the funding is approved. Just to help resident expectations, this warrant article passes at town meeting in April.
Yep.
When do you think that kind of more detailed planning would be known on, when construction would
I
happen?
would want to
and-
do it in the fall.
Okay, and so.
Yeah, it's free cash, so it's available, whatever, 10 days after town meeting. We can get the engineers together with me to come up with how best to spend it down bottom of the hill, what structures, and then put the bid on the street come July, and then August, September, October, done. And then we'll start this whole cycle again in
Another
October.
cycle then, okay.
Yep.
But there's, you've got the timeline that you'd see some construction then in calendar year, that fall.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yep.
Yeah, Mona?
Well, I was wondering does that mean that the $500,000 is kind of a bandage for we'll fix this later?
No, it's you gotta redo your kitchen, and I'm gonna do my upper cabinets first. They're gonna be gorgeous, brand new. I just can't afford the bottom ones of the countertops yet. I'll do that next year. That's kind of what it is. So it's gonna be done, it's gonna be permanent, it's gonna be what's needed to be done.
It's just gonna take 2 years.
It's gonna take 2 years to do other stuff. Nothing that gets done year one would have to be redone.
That's good.
And
And nothing
the
that's
goal
done,
is, oh, go ahead.
nothing that's done year one. So let's say we have another bad storm. Like, is it certain that we won't cause damage before?
Yep.
Sorry.
And the goal is year one to fix the drainage problems before you go and redo the streets, because if you redo the streets before you fix the drainage problems, we're gonna have the same problem again.
Yeah, or I'm gonna be digging up a road we just paved.
Yeah.
So there are some specialty treatments that need to be done here. There's one pipe discharge at the bottom of, I think it's Patriot, the first cul-de-sac as you come up the hill on the right-hand side. Patriot or Liberty? I think it's Patriot. There's a pipe that's about 35 feet deep, and it's got some problems in it. We're not digging that hole. That's gonna be a cured-in-place pipe process, similar to what I described about the culverts. A lot different because it's 12-inch diameter, it's not 5 feet deep, 5 feet wide, people don't walk in it. But there's gonna be some unique challenges here. And what they said about the neighborhood is 100% accurate. When I went out there and met with the residents, I pointed out certain things. The undulations in the driveways. You don't normally get a pothole in your driveway unless there's a problem. The front steps of these houses, a lot of them are tipping forward. That's indicative of poor construction compaction. You look around the manhole covers and the grates, that's where all the cracking is. Well, that's because they didn't compact well around it. There's a lot of evidence of the construction not going as well as it should have out there.
We've talked in past years that our kind of timeline to have ever gone back to the developer and the construction folks that didn't do it correctly.
Yeah.
We're long past that, unfortunately. So
Probably built by Assabet Hill DBA LLC that's, dissolved the day after they've sold the last house.
yeah, so where
Yeah.
we've got to put it together. Okay.
This is a routine replacement. This is to replace a street sweeper. It's a 2011. The last sweeper we traded in was 12 years old, and it had a trade-in value of $7,500, so it had next to no value. We did reach out to our vendor to find out what is the typical age when sweepers get traded in. They said it's in that 12 to 15-year range when all the mechanicals, hydraulics, and body starts falling apart. This one will be 17 years old by the time we trade it in. Now, we have two street sweepers. We need them both. They are required for compliance with our MS4 EPA permit. It's a stormwater permit that says we got to sweep our roads twice a year. It generally takes almost all of spring and fall until it snows to sweep with two sweepers. We can't survive with one. We'd be in non-compliance with our MS4 permit. Unfortunately, the federal government doesn't understand that oak leaves stay on the trees well into the snow season, and we don't necessarily get them all out of the gutter, but whatever, that's their hope. We get the maples at least.
What's the age of the second sweeper?
We
you recall?
bought that, 6 years old?
It says 2011.
That's the sweeper we're trading in, yep.
All right.
But then the one that we'll schedule to replace in 2032 is about 6 years old now, so.
And we try to cycle them
Yeah.
6 to 7 years apart. 'Cause unfortunately, the parts on these are not like off the shelf. It's not a Malibu where you can go get yourself a new tie rod. They're unique, like the sidewalk machines. There's not a big parts department for these things.
Okay.
This is the Hudson Street Bridge repair project. This is the Hudson Street Bridge right between, what's that caterer there by the food pantry?
Peppers?
Peppers. Yeah, between Peppers and River Street. Is that
Still Peppers. But anyway, yeah.
now formerly known as? Between there and River Street, there's a industrial building on the right-hand side as you're leaving town. Just before that building, there's a culvert that conveys Cold Harbor Brook. It's evident by the the left-hand side where there's a guardrail, right-hand side is the sidewalk is cordoned off. Mass DOT inspects this structure for us. They started doing that for municipalities, I think, 2012. So they found deficiencies in it. The sidewalk is closed for a reason. It has no bearing capacity. Nobody should walk on it. It's not safe. Beyond that, it may be difficult to see in the photograph, you guys. It's a really small photograph. But on the bottom of the arch, you'll see a little rectangle, white rectangle there. That's depicting a crack in that bearing stone. That's not what you want. There's basically 3 stones that are incredibly important on the arch. Everybody knows the keystone, that's the really big one. And then each bearing stone on each side. So that's a bad one to have cracked. What I did do is we submitted a grant application to Mass DOT to fund the design services. So we have $178,300 proposed for design services. We submitted a grant application to Mass DOT, which we expect to receive response before town meeting. They say in March. I don't know. They want to get the funding out before construction season starts. So I'm hoping we get the grant. Excuse me. It's for $150,000, so there'd still be a $28,300 delta. Falls underneath the threshold. So in the event the funding comes and it's after the warrant is approved, this would just be passed over at town meeting. And we would be utilizing operating budget. We could use Chapter 90 money as well for this. It should be known that the next year in FY28, the $1 million, that number is also eligible for the same grant program with Mass DOT.
Okay, good.
So hopefully we can grant this thing through. Sometimes they'll put a local match on it, 20% or something. That depends on how the program is being funded that year. This year, it's the robust funding. The Fair Share Act dumped a lot of money into this.
Before you move on to the enterprise fund items, I just want to pause. Any committee members have questions on what we've covered so far? Additional questions on that? Great. And then, Scott, is there anything to be said about plans for the Whitney Street Bridge?
Mass DOT owns, operates it. I would like to say they maintain it, but, well, it's a design flaw in the bridge itself. They're box beams, precast, pre-stressed concrete box beams. The concrete strands are stretched. And then they have stirrups that go around them to kind of hold them in shape. The outer beams are what are compromised. The stirrups are rusted through, and then the tensile strands on the bottom are non-existent. They rusted through. So when you have a beam, it wants to flex like this. Concrete is good when it's getting squished, not so good when it's getting stretched. So you have steel on the bottom for stretching. Well, when the steel on the bottom is broken, you close the bridge. There are a few other bridges that are suffering from this same deterioration in the Commonwealth. This one is a little more challenging to replace because it's over a railroad. So that complicates it quite a bit.
And no, so basically that's because it's kind of outside of our jurisdiction and control. Good news is we're not planning to spend any money on it. Bad news is it's out of our control. We have no idea of the timing.
It's probably an appropriate paragraph in our letter to our legislative authority, representatives. it's an important route, you know, it connects us to Berlin, and it certainly adds response time for FDPD to get around it's a long ride.
Yeah.
You know, to go all the way through Berlin and the Rotary and everything to get there, so it'd be worthwhile to let them know.
All right, thank you for that pause.
So these look a lot alike because they're the same photograph, because I don't have a lot of photographs of what's referred to as graphitization of ductile iron pipe. So Forbes Road, that whole industrial zone was built as a one big, industrial zone. And they have a sewer force main from the Forbes Road pump station and a water main that goes from the end of Forbes Road through the woods, adjacent to the cloverleaf where Solomon Pond and 290 hit. And then it comes up out of the woods onto Solomon Pond, and then away it goes wherever it goes. One of the problems with this is that the pipes go through a large wet area, and that wet area is at the toe of the slope where the cloverleaf is. So it's just been inundated by salt and salt and salt and salt and salt and salt. And when you combine, and I'm not a metallurgist, but when you combine salt, water with corrosive soils, it converts chemically ductile iron to graphite. To the point, like when we had a break in one of the lines, they took the broken piece of pipe back to the shop because it was the weirdest looking thing ever. And when I talked to our engineer, who has a metal specialist, the metallurgist, he said, "Can you write on paper with it?" We did. So yeah, graphitization. Yep. It's not going to stop. It's going to break again. So this would be a very similar approach that we talked about at Aspet Hill, where the pipe is like 34 feet deep, cured in place. The pipe is okay right now. I mean, if you pound it on with your foot, it would probably break. But we can line it. It can be lined, which is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And it's both pipes. They run parallel. They're put in the same time, same dirt, same contractor. And if they were to go down, that industrial zone would be catastrophic. They wouldn't be able to operate. They'd be closed. And our reservoir dam removal. Talking about this again.
Yeah, and just
Yeah.
one thing to note too, then the funding source for the sewer and water pipe then comes out of the enterprise fund.
Yes, that's 100% supported by the enterprise funds and the users of those utilities. Yep.
So now your dam project.
We got a dam project right in front of us here. We've been working on permitting and design for the removal of the reservoir dam for 3 years now. For those who don't know, Northborough owns a dam. It's in Shrewsbury and Boylston, mostly in Shrewsbury. It used to be our water supply, it no longer is. We own it, we own the water body, we own a perimeter around it. And we've been ordered by the Department of Conservation and Recreation Office of Dam Safety to repair it, remove it, or breach it. We're breaching it, which means essentially remove what everybody looks at it and thinks is a dam, to no longer impede flow of Rawson Brook. We've completed all of the permitting. The design is 75% complete. The permitting was exhaustive. I don't know if anybody's ever seen Rawson Brook. It's not the biggest brook in the world, yet we had to get a federal Chapter 91 permit, which protects the navigable waterways of the United States. Yeah. So in July, when you jump over the brook and don't get wet, you're safely going to clear tankers and
Navigable
large
waterway.
ships. So I get a little frustrated with the extensive permitting needs here. It doesn't make any sense. Regardless, there is a grant program associated with removal of these dams. The Dam and Seawall Grant Program funded 80% of the design and permitting. This would cover 80% of the construction. The construction estimate for the removal is just north of $1 million. We'll submit a grant application for the removal, and what's shown here would be our local match.
And it's structured that you don't have to plan for the full and then reimbursement. It's more of a upfront.
It's one of the better ones. And that is it in a nutshell.
As we switch over to operational budget, any capital questions? See any? I'm trying to look up every once in a while to see if Tim or Jeff, you've got a question. So just get my attention if I'm not noticing.
So Jason,
I don't see Tim on the call anymore.
Did we lose Tim?
I have no questions, but thank you, Scott.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. And we may have lost him. I'll make note of that.
is this all that was good?
Yes. So I peeked ahead at the punchline. 2.8. Good job.
Tim has.
There he's back. Welcome back, Tim. I just want to make sure you can hear us and we can hear you. I'll give you a chance to go off mute.
Yeah, I can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so we have 4 operating budgets to go over: general fund, water enterprise, sewer enterprise, solid waste enterprise. I'll go over the general fund first. You can see the FY '27 general fund operating budget is proposed at $4,296,000. This is a 2.8% increase over FY '26, approximately $116,000.
I was just going to orient, Mona, if you see this packet here,
Try to use what you guys have.
and like page 4-6 as the,
Thank you.
Staffing. So I guess we can go through each division individually, because that's the way it's presented. We don't have an overall, do we, Jason? No.
Oh, for the general fund, it's 2.8.
Okay, but it's all broken up. They don't have like an entire summary of everything?
Together now.
Okay, okay, no problem.
That's what I was looking for. I'm like, you have a sheet there, a table.
I got my secret sheet.
he's got the secret.
I used to give these out
Secret
back
summary.
in the day, but yeah, it's okay.
But those same numbers are in this document?
Same numbers, yep, yep. So it can be summarized pretty easily on what, for lack of better terms, new initiatives there are, and some of the other changes. So the budget includes $55,000 in increases to expenses. Those include $15,000 for additional police details. There's been some contractual updates with all the unions and collective bargaining agreements, which has resulted in some increased costs. In addition, our roadway work and our drainage work has needed more police detail attention than in the past. We've added $15,000 for police details. We added $21,000 for roadway salt in the snow and ice budget. That's based on historic averages. And snow and ice. Yeah, so the 5-year average for salt is $262,000. The budget here proposed is $220,000. So we're still not there. Years like this year, we use a lot of salt. 3 years ago, when we had 21 inches of snow, we didn't use a lot of salt. So there's a big undulation, but the price has been going up, and we have been over in historic years. One thing to note is the snow and ice is one of the few budgets that can be overspent legally. So some communities, I live in Grafton, they budget like $200,000 for snow and ice, full knowing they're going to spend $600,000. So that's just how they choose it. Northborough has always chosen to look back. do a 5-year rolling average, throw out some blizzards, throw out some warm years, and try to get a reasonable number.
And I'd point out that we've successfully identified budgets to transfer from, so we closed the gap before the end of the fiscal year, so we're not rolling over the deficit in the next year. So the remedy for overspending within this department would be, if you didn't close the deficit by the end of the fiscal year, you would have to raise it in taxes in the next year's tax rate. So now it may be a matter of necessity because of our proximity to the 2.5 levy limit. So we don't want our snow and ice overage to necessitate cuts in other departments for the next year. But typically, on an annual basis, we've always covered the deficit in the current year by making transfers.
And often using the appropriations reserve for
Correct.
that.
The appropriations
For
reserve,
that,
exactly, is one of the sources, one of the primary sources for the overage.
So we got the salt, and then one other increase, or this is an additional service we've added, is $6,000 to aerate and fertilize our parks beyond the playing fields. Ellsworth and McAfee, there's a lot of grass that isn't part of the fields. The field fertilization program is much different than the rest. So we're including that service. Currently, we have fertilization services at Brigham Street Burial Ground, which is in critical need of that. It doesn't have irrigation, so you could see it struggles in the summertime. And we also do fertilization at the Town Common. Okay. So this would add Ellsworth to that program. Very similar to what we all do at our house. It's just done by the same firm that does it. And we just bid that out for FY '26 for the other two, not this one.
Gotcha.
Other than that, the rest of the increases are associated with contractual increases for the recently closed out collective bargaining agreements. Bless you.
Sorry.
One of the increases you see contractually is driven heavily by overtime.
I was just going to ask about that, yeah.
Our prior collective bargaining agreement included a 2-hour callback. You get a call, there's a limb down on the street, you come in, you chop it up, you get it off, you put it in a brush pile, you get in your car, you go home, 2 hours. That's now 4 hours. So it doesn't double the overtime because a lot of tasks that take 4+ hours. For example, the water sewer division, when they come in for an emergency, they're not here for 2 hours. They're not here for an hour and a half. They're here for the night. When they do their rounds on Saturday and Sunday, every single water station and sewer station gets eyes on it every single day. So water sewer comes in on Saturdays, whoever's on call, and on Sunday, and they do the rounds. Those rounds have been successfully completed in 2 hours for the past decade since I've been here. They're now going to get paid 4 hours for it because that's the contractual agreement. That increases the overtime line item quite a bit more than what you would see typically. So this is a one-time bump that will be stabilized in the future because it'll be just part of the annual contractual increases.
That's what I was looking at, is like kind of an average of 150 in the prior years, now bumping up to 200. We'd expect that 200 going forward.
Yes. Yep. It won't fall off. The police details are a similar situation. They also have a minimum. We used to, as a municipality, as their peer, get a little bit of a soft, cushy landing with them. But, you know, they're now similar to the other peer communities. That's not uncommon.
So that's reflected in the contracted services, correct, Scott?
Yeah. Yep. Everything else, I mean, there's not, one thing to take a note of, the streetlight program.
Oh, yes.
So we're the proud owners of every single streetlight in Northborough. It cost us $1. We actually had to write a check to National Grid for $1. So we did, and now we own the streetlights. Our contractor will be starting in March to convert all of the streetlights that are high-pressure sodium over to LED. Once that work is complete, We expect to see a substantial savings in our annual costs for operating the streetlights. I don't know what that savings is gonna be. You know, the sales vendors tell you some really, pie-in-the-sky number. I don't believe that. I think it's gonna be somewhere between reasonable and that. So we cut $65,000 out of the budget. They had projected that it's gonna be in the $50,000 to $60,000 range for an annual operating. I don't believe it. I'll believe it when I see it. If it does come to fruit, yay, 27. We can drop another 40, 50 out of 27. If it doesn't come to fruit, we have the budget there. And again, if it does come to fruit, the surplus goes into free cash. So that's, it's safe. I would rather be safe than in trouble.
Would we see that in a utilities line, or where would we see the?
There's a standalone
65?
department, 14424.
Yeah, so if you turn to section 416.
It's the most
416.
boring
Thank
one
you.
in here.
I
The
have
last one.
a question on that. So we purchase it from National Grid. Is that because it works out cheaper for us to maintain it than to pay them to maintain it?
Yes and no. We'll see, maybe. So there was two programs we could have done. National Grid would have converted all of the streetlights over to LED, no charge to us, for free. All we had to do was write a letter, say, please do it. We would not own them, we would not have to maintain them. It would just be like it was yesterday, except they're all LED, and we would have saved maybe $40,000 a year. The decision by the administration at the time just was that we should buy the streetlights for $1, convert them over with $380,000 of ARPA money, and realize possibly twice the savings. But now we have to own and operate a large component of infrastructure that we can't touch them legally, the DPW, so we have to hire a vendor.
Okay.
I'm trying to, we'll work through the vendor process. There are municipalities like Shrewsbury Light and Cable, they would contract with us to work on them. But if they get hit by a storm and we get hit by a storm, they're going there first, they're not coming here. So I'd rather have somebody who's got a firm and they have 10 different, municipalities they work with, which I'm in the process of working through. So we're gonna save money and we're gonna get some headaches out of it.
Yeah, that wasn't me. That wasn't me.
My headaches, your savings.
We'll point out, it is nice to see that there's leveraging some of the ARPA funds for an operational savings in the future.
So that would be something then to, this time next year, see how we did against the actuals against the 65,000.
Exactly.
Great.
Oh, looks like Susan wants to say hi.
Awesome. Any questions on the general operations budget?
Did Susan have her hand out?
I think
No.
she just joined the meeting.
Just join.
Oh, she joined, okay, all right. Yep, all the other increases are standard escalations, utilities, contractual services. So we have contractual services for cleaning some of the buildings, not here because we have a custodian. Those contracts include annual escalations, typically 2%. And water is our next budget. So, of the three enterprise funds, water and sewer are the two that are 100% self-sufficient, supported by the users. If water wants to spend money, they have to utilize the resources from the customers. The one largest contributing, so the water operating budget is proposed to go up 4.8%. That's $140,763. The contractual obligations, again, struck us on this one. You can see that there was a 40% increase in overtime. Again, that's attributed to a 2-hour callback of going up to 4-hour callback. So that's of the 140,000, 22 of it is dedicated specifically to that. One other substantial increase is expected always, and that's our MWRA assessment. We receive all of our water from the MWRA. I say this often, that I'm a retail man. I own a retail business. I buy water on the wholesale market and I sell it on the retail market. Problem is, I'm not allowed to make a lot of money. I absolutely can't lose any money, and I'm trying to convince you to buy less of my product through conservation. So it's a struggle financially to manage a business with that model. But we do. The only other substantial increase in the water operating budget you'll see is related to debt. We have two debt items, principal and interest, going up substantially, totaling up about $25,000. So we've got a little over 50 for
At the utility bridge,
Yep.
Scott,
Yep.
that's what we're budgeting for,
Yeah, I was just
right?
going to ask what drives that, and it's those,
the bridges from last year.
gotcha.
Yeah, so you got, $30,000 there, then you got 55 from the authority, and then you got 22 in overtime. You gain up to 140 pretty quick. So there's no new initiatives. We bring stuff in and out of the budget as required by Mass DEP. The MWRA requires us to do a system-wide leak survey every year. That's coming up this year. The Mass DEP requires us to do detailed tank inspections every 3 years. There's a couple other cyclical things we do, so, we space them out on different years. Every now and then they come together. But generally, it's an add 10, add 5, add 12 kind of thing. On the soup,
And I remember with COVID and the change of where water is being used, then that was a big spike in our MWRA assessment. Has that smoothed out now, or are we kind of back to normal?
it has, our year-over-year use is down a little bit, which is good, because the way the authority works is they have their budget, just like we do, and they got a bunch of customers, just like we do, and they take their budget and they divide it up by the customers and what they used last year for water, and that's your percentage. So when you look at their sheet, you'll see Boston, 50.8%, and Northborough, 0.58%. So that's how they do it. So one large anomaly in Boston can drastically affect everybody else.
Yeah.
Hence COVID, nobody went to work in Boston, everybody stayed home, so they used much less water and we used way more. That's why we got a 23% kick that year. Luckily, we had healthy fund reserve balance, so we were in a safe enough position.
Great.
So the sewer enterprise fund, it's a proposed increase of 6.4% for $183,000. So again, it's a $183,000 increase. 150 of it is attributed to Marlboro. We had a long-term litigation with Marlboro over our intermunicipal agreement. We have an IMA with them. They own a sewer treatment plant. We're a co-permittee in it. We participated in the original construction of it financially. We got along really well for 40 years, and then the mayor changed and no longer getting along. We're back in good graces. We have a fair and reasonable intermunicipal agreement. We're paying our proportionate fair share of operations and capital improvements. One of the challenges we have is we don't have a say in the capital improvements. We don't get to vote. And they're doing a large SCADA project. So there's a bump in the operating expenses this year. I work with my counterpart there 3 times a year. So after January 1, let me see where we are, where's your operating, where's your flow rates, the flows, and then at the end of the fiscal, and then when we have our settlement, our settle-up bill in October. One of the challenges of working with Marlboro, the sewer, it's not an enterprise fund. It's all blended together. So it's not like I can just say, hey, it's January 1st. What's your 6-month expenditure? They don't have it. It's blended in everywhere. They got like a National Grid account, and they're all in there together. So it takes them close to 2 months to put the reconciliation bill together. So unfortunately, there's a crystal ball associated with it. I'm hoping my crystal ball says 150 is a good number.
So if you're following around at home, if you refer to page 818, if you looked at the Marlboro use charge, it's interesting to look at it if you track it across the multiple years, because FY '23's actual is $400,000, because that's purely the estimated payments we were making prior
That
to the
was our
settlement of the
good
lawsuit.
faith, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
keep things going.
And then in FY '24, you see a payment of $8 million, and that's the result of the article at town meeting where we appropriated the money to settle the lawsuit with the city.
Yeah, that was a
And
big one.
That was not activity all from 1 year, but that's when the payment was made. Then you see we're back to a more, including, I think Scott mentioned that they're assessing us for the debt for the expansion project. Those details are kind of in this document, but it's just interesting to look at. That's what I wanted to explain what the $8 million is from, if anybody's following along, wondering what that was.
It's not a typo. It's correct.
And then Scott, where do we stand in the use of our allocation in terms of percent remaining on what we're allowed to send to Marlboro?
We're not in that bad a shape. We're allowed to send them 800,000 gallons a day. We're generally 550 to 600 a day. That goes up during, high groundwater seasons, during the high groundwater season, and it goes down during the dry season. But we have capacity. I did have a study done. One thing we need to understand is, even though we have, let's say 225,000 gallons a day capacity, we have sewer pipes that run over 30% of our community. If you live and there's a sewer pipe in front of your house, but you have a septic system, I need to allocate my flow, the appropriate flow to your house. In the event your septic system fails and you want to sell your house or you want to build a new one, you're not allowed to. Mass DEP requires you to connect to the sewer. So as a Water Sewer Commission, it's their duty to make sure there's adequate capacity for every house along the sewer route that does not have a sewer connection. So that number is not easy to calculate, because if it goes by a 4-acre tract of land that has 80 feet of frontage, I don't know, you're gonna put a drive in there with six-bedroom houses? I don't know. So there's some zoning thought behind it. But we have that analysis done. It accounts for maybe 50,000, maybe 60,000. So
Okay.
we're in that 200,000 range.
Okay, so that if our actual's around 550 and you kind of do a little bit,
Yep.
if everybody hooked up on all at once, we'd have
You still have-
200,000 left or
exactly.
so.
Yep. So, again, on the sewer budget, it's an proposed increase of 180, 150 is Marlboro, and 15 is overtime. So everything else is just regular stuff. Utilities go up, my electric bill went up, this one does as well. Sewer departments use a lot of electricity because we got pumps. Pumps run on electricity, so quite a bit of use there.
Yeah.
So, just to round out the water sewer discussion, we do a rate study every year. A lot of communities don't do that. They'll do one every 5 years and just maintain the projections in between. We do one every year. The rate study, it's not that expensive. It's under 20 grand. It's like $15,000 a share between both. Our rate modeler gives us the privilege to have the working document, the spreadsheet. So I can model things, operating budget. So I touch it while I was developing the operating budget. I touch it while we're developing the capital plan. I touch it again after town meeting to kind of solidify things. And then after July 1, I touch it again to get the revenue in there. And then I send it off to our rate consultant. They go through the future projections, the models, get it back to us. Then it goes to the Water Sewer Commission for consideration. So it's a living document. It doesn't just sit on a shelf. It's probably in the Water Sewer Department outside of DEP permitting. It's the most important document we have. Without it, the businesses would probably fail. So it's a good thing. It's a good exercise to have. All right, you guys want to talk some trash?
Let's talk trash.
Excellent. So we have a solid waste program, pay as you throw. It's subsidized by the taxes. We have very little control over the budget. We have a contractual obligation for our collection and our disposal, both disposal of recycling and disposal of solid waste. They're 4% a year for collection, 4% a year for recycling. The solid waste disposal, the wheelabrator, the waste to energy incinerator, that's based on an index, like a CPI, but it's a kind of a unique index. There's, I think, 30 communities that participate in this contract. We all get the same adjustment, whatever it may be. It's no control over wheelabrator, no control by us. It's specific to the Northeast region of the United States. It's like a solid waste CPI. So those, of the $1.4 million budget, there's 800 for collection and 300 for disposal. So you got $1.1 million that we have no control over. The one other item you'll see is what we refer to as unclassified, and that's where a lot of other stuff falls in. For example, yard waste disposal. Our yard waste disposal has been increasing year over year over year. I'll give you a quick summary. FY23, it was 125. FY24, it was 100.5. FY26 was 160,000. FY25 was 160,000. We're proposing to maintain that 160,000 that we spent in FY25. So that's why there's a budget increase there. We had to underrun other items, other budget items to make up for the leaves and brush.
Just not to interrupt you, Scott, but just to notify the chair, Jeff has his hand up.
Oh, yeah, Jeff, let me turn it over to you for the question.
Thank you, and thanks, Scott. And I think Harvey's doing a great job as the contractor this year, so I think that's going well. 2 points I want to make. One is, I think I say this every year, but I've now been in Northborough for 10 years. I don't think I've ever seen an increase in the cost of those trash bags. That's one thing I think we can control, is the cost of those bags. And I think that a modest increase in the cost of those bags is something that people would accept. I don't know how much that moves the needle. You could comment as to how much that really does for the town, but that's one small piece I feel like we have some control over, is what we're charging. The other thing I really wanted to talk about, because I think that the yard waste disposal and the flexibility we have is tremendous. A lot of towns don't have anything like it. But I also know that contractors dump illegally all the time. And I know that your guys and Brian's guys are constantly trying to catch people doing it. And so, the one thing I would like you to at least think about looking into would be some kind of pay-as-you-go scan, like a annual kind of a scan card you buy from the town if you're a resident, that gets you into that gate you guys put up. It's a card reader. Like you have to buy it. It gets activated, and one, it helps offset the cost because the residents that want to use it are paying something. Doesn't have to be a lot, but it's something. But then I think having that gate be locked 24/7 otherwise could really help cut down on the illegal dumping that goes on. But I appreciate your comments. You're really more the expert than I am.
Thank you, Jeff. So you have wonderful timing when it comes to bag prices. That was a topic of the select board last night. We laid out a couple scenarios. They mobilized Jason and I to evaluate what different percentage increases would do to the tax subsidy and the revenue. I put actually together a quick table already projecting 10, 25, 50, 75, and 100% increases in the bag prices. We're going to vet those out and see what they do for our tax subsidy side. I do know we did a comp analysis from our peer communities for bag prices. We did a short one that was presented to the select board last night. We have a more thorough one that's in works right now and is in draft form. We are the highest bag prices. We're higher than the average amongst Worcester County as well as Central Mass. So our bag prices are very high, and our subsidy is low, among the lower. Our subsidy is a little less than 50%. My community, I live in Grafton, it's a little over 60%. So everybody is struggling with this solid waste subsidy. Grafton's talking about doubling the bag prices in order for us to be off the subsidy and try to alleviate the discussed override in Grafton.
I'm just going to piggyback on one thing Jeff said. Do we still have the memo from last night handy?
There is so many
A
documents in
reference?
this packet. I didn't add that to the packet as well, but I could.
No,
and-
I wanted to like use one example of the analysis that you did from last night. I don't know if you've got the bit and take the
Let me-
middle, the average user. Do you have the printout? Do you have the memo?
I don't have it with me.
Okay. But so the analysis that you did last night is that you modeled people that are spending so much on bags, and then the subsidy represents on the order of $100
Correct. Yeah.
Let
Let me look for it.
$100 a year. So what you spend in bags for the year, plus $100 a year in subsidized through the property taxes. And then you modeled what that would look like if you increase the bags. So now it shifts it to you're paying for the bags, but then the subsidy comes down. And so it was a little bit of a model that would allow a resident to say, oh, yeah, I'm spending this much in bags every year, and I'm spending this much in taxes every year. If we were to increase the bags, my taxes are lowered down.
One thing I've been saying, which is probably not the most popular thing, but it's true. For every dollar of tax subsidy that is provided to the solid waste program, the residents are only paying maybe 75 cents for it. Because commercial and industrial properties are not eligible to participate in the pay-as-you-throw program, but they do participate in paying their taxes. So, it's on sale. Trash is on sale for the residents for every dollar of taxes. Not that it's a good news to commercial industrial, but it's a fact.
Yeah. And then I think the other thing you not necessarily warned about, but to take under consideration is that those hauling costs are fixed. The trucks still have to go through the neighborhood. If bag prices are raised too much, we're not getting, and customers switch from pay-as-you-throw to a private hauler, then we still have the costs, but we're not getting the corresponding revenue to offset it, right? And so that's where the balance is, and I think the reason model different percentage
And that's what we modeled.
increases.
When we modeled the increases, we took like 3.5% off revenue for every 10% of increase in bag prices, thinking people are going to start dropping out of the program the more the prices go up. I mean, it's not going to, I don't think it's going to be a drastic swing one way or another, but, every bit accounts when you add it up. George?
What percentage of residents use the bags versus have private hauler contracts?
Approximately, well, for percentages, we provide solid waste service to approximately 5,800 homes, and I want to say there's a little over 6,500 in town, so.
I think the statistic was that we used to try to model some of the averages was, I think there's 5,800 households in town, and then the DEP, I think Josh provided us some DEP statistics that said at 85% of
85%,
households.
that's right,
Yes,
yes,
so
yes.
it was about 4,900 that participated in the program. If that statistic holds.
All right, 4,900 participate in the program, so 1,000 or so households don't?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so they're in the same as the commercial bucket. They're subsidizing the program even though they don't use it.
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, so it's not just commercial, it's.
Right. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, there's the only private hauler permit to operate in town is Harvey's, Tidy Town. They pick up in town on Mondays. There are other communities that don't offer solid waste. The community doesn't, and what the result typically is some competition on the private hauler side, as opposed to, Harvey's is in Westboro. It's so easy for them to offer an affordable private haul service here, as opposed to, somebody who's from Wareham or something.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you open it up and there's, 5,800 homes, maybe there's more competition.
Okay.
Jeff, you've got a comment?
Well, just to say, when I was looking into, when Harvey became the contractor, I looked into what it would cost to just switch to their private, just to see. And it seemed to me, at least based on what I spend on pay-as-you-go, it seemed to be a lot more expensive. It's the same service, right? They do the same thing for me that they do for my next door neighbor who has Harvey, but I'm getting it for just a lot cheaper. So I think that when we work up the models, I think it's as important to compare it to the cost of the private services as it is to compare it to the cost in other towns for pay-as-you-go, because the only alternative is another service. And I mean, people could do the math, but when, at least when I look based on what I buy, but I guess it's hard to say how many bags do people buy? Because when you have Harvey, you have the convenience of you just, Tidy Town, you just chuck it in your bin. It'll take whatever you put there, where we have the bags. But it was a lot more expensive. I mean, like exponentially more to sign up with their private service.
That's a good point,
Just
Jeff. I'm going to add that to our comp analysis. We're giving something a little more in-depth to the select board for consideration. I think that's important.
Yeah, so I think we found that the private service in town charges $55 a month, and if you go by a small bag or at $1.50 or a large bag at $3, depending on how frequently you use the program, there's significant savings by continuing to use the town program when you consider the subsidy plus the cost of the bags. We laid some of this data out in the select board's packet last night. Again, we can talk about this, but there's some complications too with our program going forward, given that our trucking contract's up in '27, and there's some decisions to make with entering a new one with the cost of toters and whether there would be a capital investment in buying the toters.
Yeah, when we went out for bids in FY25, when we stopped working with Republic, we did not entertain, we talked about, we thought about it, but we wanted to stick with the program as it is, pay-as-you-throw green bags, single bin, single stream recycling. There was only three collection contractors willing to provide quotes for manual pickup. Republic no longer provides manual pickup as an offer, as a service. Their drivers, they don't want their drivers getting out of trucks. There's been a lot of accidents, a lot of injuries, and a fatality. Waste Management does the same thing. It's generally more local haulers that, maybe have an older rolling fleet that don't really have maybe the resources to purchase new stock or convert over, that are willing to still get out of the truck. And that's gonna continue to dwindle. As their rolling stock ages out, they're gonna get ones with arms that the guys don't get out. There's no dumpster in the front that you do that with anymore. So, we'll have to evaluate it. Like Jason said, one of the challenges with mechanized pickup is the bins. We got 5,900 homes and it's $80 a bin. Who's buying them? You gotta tell somebody you gotta buy a bin or we don't pick up your trash anymore. That's a hard sell. What, do you want to borrow a bunch of money out of the solid waste program to buy all the bins? That's a hard sell as well. So it's gonna be some difficult conversations we have.
And although we haven't, formally taken any votes or anything like that, I think there's enough kind of comments made that this committee is pretty amenable to adjusting the bag fees to carve away at kind of some of the to reduce that subsidy on the tax side. And so if that comes to fruition, I think it's pretty much a favorable view from us that is like, let's do a modest increase of the bag fees to reduce that tax burden. Mm-hmm. And coupled with, as Jeff pointed out, educate the residents that it's such a deal compared to a private hauler that utilize the system, get better recycling, et cetera.
Right.
I will take a moment and pause. We've got a member
Susan?
wishing to make a comment. So Susan, I'll go ahead and open up and give you a chance to make a comment.
Thank you, Scott. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's coming through fine.
Okay, thanks very much. I appreciate that you guys are all having this dialogue about trash. I appreciated last year when Terry Halloran brought it up as a potential way for us to work our way through the overrides coming our way. I'm very, very pleased that Jason and Scott have worked up these numbers and have presented them to the select board and to you people. I'm hoping that this moves forward. I wanted to speak personally as somebody that uses a private hauler, and obviously it's Harvey, and it costs me $67 a month. And yes, I did have to buy my bin in the beginning. They did replace it when it broke halfway through the 30-year period or 25-year period that I've been using it. So I understand there's a cost to incur if you want to be able to get the bins for everybody. And I think that all of us in town would understand that we need to move that way to help the people that, you know, would need to do that. But if you'll allow me, I'd like to ask Scott a question. Jeff brought up the issue of debris taken to the highway department. There had been a long discussion at the select board's meeting in regard to making sure that private enterprises weren't bringing in and dropping off their brush. And there was going to be a gate that was closed. There were going to be people that watched it. Where do we stand with that?
Through the chair, so the gates have been installed. They are operational. My expectation is to put out some public information in the coming week or two, so they receive it first week of March, and so the gates can become operational in the beginning of March before, raking season shows up. The select board did vote on the hours of operations at the gate, which are expansive. 8 to 2 Monday, Tuesday 8 to 7, Wednesday and Thursday and Friday 8 to 2, and then Saturday 8 to noon. So they're open a lot, and past the highway garage operating hours of 7:30 in the afternoon. The commitment was made that either PD or myself will close the gates on Tuesdays at 7. And on Saturdays, when we're not working, PD will have to open and close them. My
May
community.
I ask another question?
Of course.
Oh, and Susan, just for the
select board-
purpose,
May I, Scott, no?
oh, no, I would, just for the purpose of the minutes, can you just do the full name and address? We know.
Oh, Susan Sartori, 465 Green Street, I apologize sincerely. When this discussion first took place with the select board, they obviously wanted very much for this brush services to be left open to the citizens. And it appeared that there was going to be undue harm to the highway department, having to keep the place open so that you could take this all in. They themselves, the select board, had offered to man the gate on Saturdays. Is that part of your plan, or was that just all said in jest?
I'm going to rely on police and public works to operate the gate. This is an operational need, and I believe a policy board may not be the appropriate entity to work in the operations portion of town.
I think that is sincerely a very wise decision, but have operational costs been put forward to them to make them understand what this cost will be to the town?
We have discussed it. I have not memorialized it or quantified it. We've discussed it in general terms. I've also presented what other peer communities do for their brush disposal. Grafton, for example, has the brush area open on Saturdays, has a senior work-off program. They're there from 8 to noon on Saturdays. And during the summertime, they'll have periodic Thursdays that are open during the day. Other communities just have, like Framingham has a lock gate. They open on Saturday and they lock it. There are not, I can't think of a public works department in the area that doesn't have a gated system. Especially with their brush disposal area. It leaves it open to contamination, which is problematic. We've found lumber in the brush pile which contaminates the load. The load is a 30 cubic yard trailer dump, and that whole load is contaminated because they don't know how much construction debris is in there, and they can't run it through a tub grinder. So there are challenges with having that resource wide open for extended hours.
I thank you for that, and I hope that you can continue to drive home the operational costs as we move forward in this budget this year. I mean, we sincerely have some big problems here in town trying to avoid an override and still maintain some of the great services we have, like our schools, like our safety services and our highway department. And I think this is an undue expense that you should not have to incur. And Scott, thank you so much for the time allowing me to speak this evening.
You're welcome. Oh, that's you, Scott.
Yeah, both Scotts, yeah, thank you. We both appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate both of you always. Thank you.
All right, any other comments on solid waste? Excellent. Scott, I just want to say, thank you from, the standpoint of, preparing the budget this year. I know there was pretty stringent budget directions and, asked of the department heads. I think you stepped up and provided exactly what was needed, a level service budget, general operations fitting within that target of the 2.9. You have some extenuating circumstances in the enterprise funds, but they're also covered and self-sufficient, so not as critical. So I think you've done a great job in terms of operational budgets to the taxpayers, as well as, really looking over the capital plan and
Excellent.
getting the things, asking for the things you need.
Well, thank you. Anything comes up with questions, what have you, please let me know, email or call. Everything I have here is all yours, anytime you want it.
Can I add one thing?
Oh, yes, yes,
I
yes.
just want to say that I appreciate Scott's diligence and his reaction to, I can't stress enough how complicated these budgets can be when it comes to the collective bargaining that was open this year. And then I think it was January 16th when the contracts that Scott's talking about tonight were settled. So those are reflected in these budgets. So it was kind of a blessing that he was so willing to update his budget numbers. So, and they still fit within the guidelines that we laid out. So again, I just want to acknowledge that.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you. Very nice to meet you. All righty. Next budget item, our agenda item, we keep that open for just any sort of budget updates and other department updates that might come across. So Jason, maybe I turn it over to you to talk through latest model changes and other items.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. In the packet tonight is a copy of the current budget model. And I'll just navigate some of the changes. I think we talked about the last time we were here. The governor's numbers for the state aid we used, so we gained about $60,000 in additional state aid in the model, which obviously reduced what's modeled. The budget imbalance that we have is modeled as an override here. But that's typically the top line, the 1.725 million is the current budget imbalance that we're looking at. And it could be solved with an override. It could be sought by reducing other budgets further. It could be sought that 1.75 could be lessened by additional revenues that are discovered, like additional solid waste or a lessening of the solid waste subsidy. Which is that's highlighted here at 691, 182, further down in the expense side of the budget. So if we reduced expenses and increased revenues, again, we were quoting the number $2 million. The school committee had since we met with them, the next night they presented a budget where they reduced, the school committee approved a budget reduction of $236,000 from what we saw from the superintendent. Was that last week?
Just last week, I know, right? So much has happened.
But their budget dropped from 7.75 to 6.96, so appreciate their efforts toward closing the gap. But that's where we're at right now is the 1.725. So we're One of the largest increases has been, and open items has been the health insurance renewal. Last Friday, and again, it's funny how things seem so long ago, is it just, we just found out on Friday what our renewals are, which were status quo, a 12.44% renewal in our health insurance premiums for our active plans. We are collectively working with the joint purchasing arrangement with the schools and the town of Southborough that make up our joint purchasing arrangement. We have to work in tandem with them and offer the same plan design through this model. And we have, I think we've talked at length about it, and I don't want to go on a tangent and bore everybody, but talk about we're going to be offering a high deductible plan, which will be about a 20% reduction from the HMO plans. And that will be, a high deductible plan will be matched with a health savings account proposal. And the enticement there would be that people could start to use the health savings account mechanism to save money for toward the deductible. So the exposure will be their potential out-of-pocket exposure could be similar to the active plan. We're also going to be talking about modifying the active HMO plans to potentially include a deductible to potentially bring a savings in and to help close the budget gap here. That's remains to be seen. That's kind of like landing a triple Lutz on the ice to get all these things to come together. But
Nice
we'll be
topical
meeting
metaphor.
with.
Good job.
Yeah, we'll be meeting with the IAC and the employee groups. We've had a long history of having low increases, so this is kind of, it's the health insurance market in general and the healthcare market in general that is driving some of these things. But we have modeled here a 16% increase in health insurance because that takes into account the 12.44% increase. We moved to a consultant model, so we also need to provide for our contract through the JPA with Borislau Insurance, who's our advisor. We are no longer working with a broker that gets paid out of the premiums behind the scenes, so we're paying directly. They work directly for us, and they've been responsive to our needs, and they'll be at the, I think I mentioned we have an IAC, and for an insurance advisory committee meeting with employees later this week, where we're going to be talking about some of these options. So it's very much in flux. There's nothing that we can guarantee in terms of savings, but we're trying to attack this 1.725 budget deficits from both directions, and it's not a foregone conclusion that it's an override, but we're moving toward that, trying to balance this budget. So
Yeah, and I think that's the
update that I have.
Okay, and I think that's in line with what we've been saying in this committee is like, let's try to use all the levers and options we have
Trying to pull all the
avoid
levers that we can see.
and land that triple Lutz. And I just want to say, so it's important then, and maybe talk a little more of the timeframes about the health plan redesign, and the idea there is modernize the plans, make it more beneficial to everyone. It's a win-win situation. If we can get a more modern plan that has a lower premium, that means the portion that the town is subsidizing is less, the portion that's out of pocket for the employee is less, and
Yeah, so
a win.
so a lot of the changing the plan design is dependent on acceptance from the plan designs are in some of our union contract language, so we would have to work through our employee groups to.
And that was going to then be
achieve
my
that.
question in terms of the timeline for that. Do we have enough runway to have the meetings with the advisory committee?
That's why
and-
we're scheduling these meetings as quickly as
That's right,
possible.
yeah, okay.
We started with the RFP to get to replace the broker or consider replacing our broker in the fall. We moved through that. We're moving as quickly as we can to try to enact changes.
And as is the enrollment periods for town, is it coincide with a July 1st or is it calendar year?
July 1st. Our plan year runs.
It is fiscal
It
year.
runs on a fiscal year basis for the active plans. We also have retiree plans too, so I think approximately of the cost of this health insurance increase is there's a retiree component. We're responsible for continuing to pay for health coverage for people that retire with pensions through the town. I'm guessing, I haven't calculated the number off the top of my head in detail, but it's somewhere around 10 to 25% of this total amount. And that runs on a calendar year basis. So we don't know what our renewal would be for 2027, but
Okay.
you know, it's generally less than the active plans.
Any question?
Just to get an idea of what's going, let's assume, I'm looking at worst-case scenario. Let's assume we can't close the gap. We're headed toward an override. So we go forward, we go to town meeting, and then at town meeting, people vote yea or nay on the warrant articles for the different parts of the budget. And then it has to go to townwide election for the override, which is a yea or nay. So what happens if at town meeting they vote no on all or part of the budget? Because again, I'm just looking at, there was considerable upset last year about how much the expenses are going up. So what happens there at town meeting if they say no?
So in order to operate, we would need to have an appropriation by July 1st. So if a budget article failed so that there wouldn't be an operating budget in place on July 1st, we would have to continue having special town meetings until we had an appropriation that was, in theory, will be less and would be part of a balanced budget.
Right.
Typically, I think what is done is a contingent budget is passed if the override failed at the ballot. So there would be, a budget would be passed counting on an override, and then there would be a fallback position for if the ballot election failed, which our annual election is in May, which follows the town meeting. So
Right.
if the question was placed on the ballot and that were to fail, it would fall back to a cut budget, but then there'd potentially be, notices that would have to go out and adjustments being made to, we'd be living
All
with
right.
the lower
So
budget.
is the town preparing for that?
Not at this point, but we will.
Okay.
We will need to.
All right. Because it seems to me if we could avoid that, it would be a very good thing. And it would be nice to go to town meeting not asking for the override, because I just feel like that could create more problems than if we can kind of deal with it before we get there.
Yeah, I mean, there's also other possibilities, like the contingency could be using reserves instead of an override. It could be that, but I don't have all of the answers. I mean, I'd like to see us chip away at the 1.7 and then come back with a multiple year plan if it were to be contingent on using reserves and an
All right.
override too.
Okay.
Both those things are kind of equally a difficult decision to make.
Okay.
And again, moving on, and if I want to move on to the next document, the capital plan.
Okay.
This document here. We did talk about the largest adjustment we made to that between the last discussion, which was to eliminate any debt beyond the Z-School roof in this plan. And because of the capacity problems that we're having with Proposition 2.5, we were looking at that project as being contingent on it being a debt exclusion because of just the general size of it. And so that's modeled here as the source being debt exclusion. The other part of that pie, the other half of the pie in the capital plan this year would be the MSBA funded portion of the roof. So that there's the pink section, then the blue section below that. So pretty much half the capital plan would be borrowing in MSBA funding for the roof. So the other half of the plan, if you want to look at the details of that, you can flip to the next page, and that's the funding sources laid out. So again, Scott laid out that one of the changes was he removed an item that didn't meet the level of capital once he got quotes. So that change had happened from the inception of the capital planning meetings. I would point out as well, we did have some infrastructure projects where there were some surplus bond proceeds, and we did get bond counsel. So if you look at the other available funds column, if the question was, what are those? Those are some surplus bond proceeds and some leftover money related to enterprise fund borrowing that could be appropriated to offset the cost of those projects.
And then the rest of this packet has the anticipated capital out to 2036.
Yeah.
Any questions on the?
That concludes my comments.
Yeah,
And
I'll go there. I just want to look at one last thing.
So I guess I have a question just so I understand this a little better. So we'll be voting this year to balance the budget for 2027?
correct.
So then that doesn't help. I was hoping that maybe you'd have a year to sort this, but no, it has to be completed by around May. Or
Correct. For town meeting, we need to, this is the budget we're working on to move toward. The end of March is kind of the deadline that we need to know how we're crafting the budget article to go to town meeting in April.
And currently, you don't have a plan as of yet as to how to reduce this amount?
No. Like I said, there's a lot of things that are contingent on it. The health insurance, if we can reduce that, that would lower the amount. It's unlikely that the items that I mentioned are going to add up to 1.725, so there will have to be a policy decision to make whether it be proposed on the front end as being an override proposition, whether that be the reserves be contingent on the override failing, or whether reserves are just used up front without seeking an override.
It's going to be a rough next month.
Yeah, it's been pretty busy, so.
And so we'll expect these calculations to continue to be adjusted based on as other decisions are made, and with a, hopefully an expectation that we see that 1.7 drop as some things come in, whether that's increased revenue or decreased in expenses. And at some point we'll be, okay, we've made all the changes we can, and then we'll have some conversations around the use of reserves or the use of other items. But, we want to keep all those things on the table. And I think everybody's in agreement about let's do everything we can to avoid an override vote, just notwithstanding the complexity, but it's also a demonstration that we are looking at all these different areas to reduce the tax burden on the residents, and hopefully then be able to say, because we've gone through this process, because we've looked at these different areas and worked to refine them, we're confident in the budget, we're recommending that approval at town meeting, and we have a good solid backing for the budgets that's presented at town meeting. So that's great.
I see a hand up on this.
Yeah, I was just going to say, any other questions before I give, or comments before I
I
give
would just
Susan
say
another chance?
it would be really good to ensure that that's really, really clearly laid out for town meeting so they understand. So it's not like voted against, they really understand what the implications are going to be.
Right. Yeah, exactly. There's a narrative there, paint the scenario that is, going into this, we saw a gap, in the budgets. And these are the steps taken to reduce that gap as much as possible. Hopefully, remove it altogether, close it altogether. And then that's why we've got all the town departments, all the financially based committees, all the staff coming together, presenting a solid budget. That's what we want to be able, that's the position we want to be in, right? Susan, I'll recognize you for another comment.
Thank you very much. The other evening at financial planning, Jason, I raised the question to you if we do need an operational override of some sort. You said that it would be an override for the school department because they did not come in at the 2.9. Is that still the way that you would structure that override?
Well, given the current, the approach that we set out with in November, with the policy that we worked through then, that, yes, I would assume so if we were unchanging from our approach to the budget. Yeah, yes.
Okay, and then my next question is, I think that we all really need to take a very close look at the capital plan, not just for this year, but the ensuing years. There's an awful lot packed in there, and there's some really big numbers, and it's becoming pretty apparent with the way we're going forward, and possibly by the guidance of the select board, that, and even some of the things that Terry Halloran had said, whom I respect immensely, that we may not be able to generate the same kind of free cash that we have had in the past. So I would just like to bring those items to the forefront for people to think about as we move forward. And I'm happy to hear that you're looking at using reserves to try to bring these numbers down. I do believe the school department has had a huge problem this year. They're telling us that it looks like it's a one-time deal, and hopefully maybe the reserves can help some of that. So thank you so much for allowing me to speak again, Scott.
Yeah. No, thank you, Susan. This is just a reminder to me, I can't remember the dates on the Algonquin, on the regional school district.
It's the end of this month. It'll be
Yeah, it was-
probably the.
It was later this month, so
last Wednesday.
if anybody from the school committee is listening, an opportunity, right, to continue to look at that school budget and look
That would
for
be
some.
the regional school committee is what you're talking about, right?
Right, yeah, for the regional, an opportunity to, continue to work on that budget, and further refinements would sure be appreciated.
Right, so, again, they're a partner within the JPA, so they're facing some of the costs that we're facing as well.
Yeah, for
in terms
those
of
health
the-
insurance.
In terms of the costs that, employers face, whereas the K-8 district, obviously, they've sped expenses that we heard from the superintendent about, but they carry all of the health insurance expenses and within their budget.
I guess that's also an opportunity with Steph, you listening in, continue to talk about and add in our legislative priorities, right? About special education and transportation funding to our delegation.
Oh, yes, they're well aware.
We have it there every year, but it's still an important factor that's out of our control, right? We can do everything right at the municipal level and then be not saddled with, but have expenses that we don't have control over.
Correct.
Anything else, Jason, on budget updates?
I just defer to see if Steph has anything to
Yeah,
add.
I do have one question for you. I think what we'll see as fiscal '27 comes into more visibility, kind of what you were referring to, Mona, as that kind of 5-year projection. So, right now, we're kind of focused on refining '27 as much as possible, but then it's almost just as important to forecast what we've got for '28.
Right.
So
If you recall, we start out with looking at some budget constraints in August. We an event called the Financial Summit, and we model out what budgets would look like under Proposition 2.5 and the capacity that we have. And at that meeting, it was determined that we would have capacity to increase, or the equivalent of increasing operating budgets 3%. And if health insurance came in at 4% and, other fixed costs didn't go up beyond that, the budget requests that are coming in are obviously, for good reason, are coming in higher than that. So that's where we're facing the gap now. We're coming to that earlier. And that projection also, that rather relatively constrained projection also showed that we wouldn't need an override this year, but we would definitely need one in '28, and going beyond that, just using those constrained projections. So it's definitely, we're meeting the limitations of Proposition 2.5 and having to figure out how to navigate through that. And we're coming to it earlier because of the needs this year.
And this might be a silly question, actually, but what is it, the White Cliffs? How might that help?
Perfect question. Yeah, Steph, let me turn it over to you if there's any other finance-related items. I know we talked a little bit earlier about White Cliffs, and Mona just brought that up. So if there's anything you can share.
Hey, Scott, can I interrupt? Sorry, I don't have a raise your hand thing you do on my phone.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I know that everybody within the town works very hard to develop budgets that are in the constraints that we have, and everybody works to reduce the tax burden on the community. I would just encourage people to reach out to our state delegation, to our state representatives. Our funding from the state has been pretty static for years, and we're going through these financial tight times, and I don't think it would hurt anything to reach out to those people and let them know that they should be maybe advocating a little bit more for the town of Northborough at the state level.
And Tim, we just actually had the legislative body, the senators and state reps in before the select board, so they know our priority list, and it's, among the topics that you've all talked about tonight. And there's pressure all around. So hopefully,
Right.
and we
And
keep drumming it, yep.
I'm sorry, and I know that every year they come in and we give them our priority list, and I don't remember a time where they came back and said, oh yeah, we took care of that. The priority list is almost the same year after year. And I know that other communities across the state are in the same position. But we
If I
both.
can be honest, Tim, their priority, and it's not our state rep's fault or our senator's fault, but their priority is housing. And so we try to get past that because there's many other issues other than housing that municipalities are worried about. But you're right, we have to keep drumming home that, that there's other things to worry about. We can't meet our budget. Insurance is through the roof. So,
Yeah, I mean, there's, I don't know how many people in the town of Northborough voted in the last election for our state representatives, but if, it's one thing to sit in front of the select board and go over a list of priorities. It's quite another thing when actual voters start phoning your office and saying, we have some budgetary concerns and you guys need to help us. That's just different. And You know, I appreciate all the residents that come to town meeting and voice their concerns about the budget. I appreciate all the people that call into all the various meetings to voice their concerns about the budget, and all the department heads do all they can to cut budgets and restrain budgets. But there's a big piece of this, which is our state delegation that should be part of this and should be working just as hard as everybody else to help us out. That's what we vote for.
Yeah, so I take your point, Tim, is that, resident voices, also talking to those state legislatures carries some weight as well. So, good point.
Yeah, I mean, think about when people call into our meetings, it holds weight.
Yep, for sure.
Probably safe to assume that it's not just us, too.
No, we're
Everybody,
far from being
all the
alone. This
towns.
is by almost a, I don't know if it would be accurate to call it a crisis across the state, but there's a lot of our neighboring communities are going to be seeking overrides next year, or seeking ways to get around it. I mean, that's why we're hearing so much talk among neighboring communities about their trash programs, where a mechanism that Northborough had used years ago when it created what was called the enterprise fund. It moved the expenses of the solid waste program out of the general fund and into a separate fund with a funding source outside of the general fund. That created capacity for under Proposition 2.5 within the general fund. So we're hearing other towns try to look for those kind of levers that they have to pull. Northborough had done it years ago. So that particular one isn't available to us, but it is, the health insurance across the state, where when I meet with peers and other people, we're all talking about the same things. And it's a lot of unanswered questions, and it's definitely a lot of pressures. And just not to let your question go, because you did bring up the question of the White Cliffs. That's ongoing. There's going to be articles at town meeting in terms of conveying the town property that was purchased with Community Preservation Act money to a private party that was the winner of an RFP. That will have a benefit to the town. Will it have one that's tangible to this model? No, but it'll be good news in general, because it'll be an exempt parcel that will go back onto the tax rolls. It'll be functioning as a business, so it's going to be generating tax revenue for meals tax, and they'll be paying property tax, and under the conditions that are being negotiated, there will be like lease revenue that will come to the general fund as well. But it is good news. Good, no doubt, good news. It'll be a great, very mutually beneficial project, but it's not going to move these numbers.
It's down the road a ways before it really.
Well, it will likely not be that material in comparison to these numbers that we're looking for in total. The town's tax base is approaching $5 billion. So that's what the burden is spread across is $5 billion. So adding 5 million to that, it's good, but it's not. It's likely something will happen that will wipe that out as well.
Yeah.
on the other side, but it's good news, no doubt.
But I think that's on track for warrant articles we'll see at town meeting. That's excellent to have that project go forward. Steph, anything else you'd like to bring up, financial related?
No, just what Jason said, the numbers are all falling into place now. Once we get the insurance numbers, we'll be able to look at reserves. I just strongly say we have to be careful when we pull from reserves. We have to think ahead of us in the future, fiscal year 28 and beyond. We don't want to take all of our reserves and then be left with a major override in the future. So as long as we're careful about it, I think we can make this year work, fingers crossed, without an override.
Awesome.
And if you want me to just touch quickly upon White Cliffs, great news is last night in executive session, the select board voted unanimously to support terms for White Cliffs, so we're very excited about that. We just need to wait on confirmation from the Elegant Banquet side, and then I'll be able to get more into the details, and I'm sure it's just like any other redevelopment project. We are going to have some people say, oh, the town didn't seek enough, and some people will be shocked at how much private party is investing into this building. So it's going to go either way. I've learned quickly that you can't make everybody happy, but it is a fair lease agreement, and it will be also opened up to purchase. I think everyone will be happy. Like Jason just said, we will have tax money finally coming in. We'll have meals tax. We'll have personal property tax. So yeah, it's great. It's great. And never mind the fact that number one cause is to preserve that beautiful building. I was just with Norm Corbin today and one of the preservationists at the Historical Society, and we were part of their preservation project for White Cliffs is to, make it look the way it used to look. So we were going through all old pictures, and it was just really neat. I found a menu from the 1950s, and a steak was $2.50. So I wish that was still the case, but it's not. Yeah, it's all positive moving forward.
Good stuff there.
Susan?
Susan, let me give you one more try there. Go ahead, I'll recognize you.
Only one, Scott, really, only one. I wanted to thank Steph for what she's done. She hit the ground running in this town when she got here and took White Cliffs as almost a personal project, and she's done a really good job. She's stuck with it. There's been lots of ups and downs. I can't even imagine what the negotiations have been behind the scenes. We all know that a good compromise is where nobody leaves the table 100% happy. She looks delighted, so I'm happy to see that. But I think we all should give her a round of applause. If she can bring this over the finish line in time for town meeting, thank you, Steph.
Thank you, Susan. That was sweet.
I could be sweet some days.
All right, so then looking ahead to future meetings, I think we plan on February 24th. That's definitely our next meeting date. I think,
So outstanding, I wanted to kind of figure out the status with the fire department, and they're the other large department that we would probably generally hear from on, and so we'll try to schedule something.
yeah, so hopefully that'll be the main topic, fire. If not, then we probably talk about finance and debt.
Yeah.
And an overview on the other departments.
Right.
Excellent. And then I keep failing to write down the date of the joint budget hearing. Is it March 23rd? Why do I want to? And I bring it up again because that's an expectation that we would have our recommendations voted.
Yeah, our calendar is in the budget instructions. I'm just going online.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. That's quite all right. To navigate to that is going to, I can go to the accountant's webpage, click on proposed budget, click on operating budget manual. The joint meeting is March 23rd, 2026.
Okay. It was stuck in my head. It was stuck correctly.
And so we've backed from that date to set a unofficial deadline for our,
this body's.
I like that you're personally invested in this. That's ours, yeah.
I am. The week of March 9th is
Okay.
would be the week that we would just look to be finalizing the recommendations.
Okay, so we really just have a couple slots left, and unless we have to, stick into Thursday or something like that. So it will be, we'll continue to press forward on that. And then I just want to highlight April 13th as an opportunity. Town administrations and select board have scheduled what's being called a mock town meeting, but it's a community information session where the warrant articles will be presented. It's an opportunity for the community to ask questions and about the warrant articles, and helps the presenters dry run their presentations for town meeting. So I would say if you're able to attend on the April 13th, I'll definitely be there and representing anything from appropriations. And it's an opportunity to get a preview of what we're going to hear at town meeting.
April what?
April 13th.
Okay.
April 13th, it also coincides with the deadline to post the warrant for town meeting on April 27th. So that's when everything will all be settled by then. All the language will not be changeable after the warrant is posted.
Yeah, good stuff there. Anything else? Other topics or thoughts?
I just wanted to say that's at the senior center, 6 PM.
Oh, thank you, Steph.
Senior center.
On the 13th?
Yeah, so April
Yes,
13th,
April 13th.
6 PM, Senior Center. Thank you. All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn then.
I motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mona. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, George. This will be our last roll call vote. Mona?
Here.
George?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And I am also an aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.